Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Delaney Sexton, good to see you in the house. I understand you're on your winter term, but what, you're taking a class too?
I am. A very condensed 4.5-week course.
You all would
been
be
very
amazed.
fun.
You would be amazed what she's studying. What's the name of this? I don't know, but what's the name of this class that you're taking?
The one I'm in right now?
Yeah.
It's not quite as interesting as some of my other classes. It is research methods in criminal justice and criminology.
What's your most interesting class to date?
I just finished up it was seminar in forensic linguistics, so kind of an introductory course.
Tell everyone, I had no idea what forensic linguistics was until you told me. Tell everyone what it is.
So, of course, it's linguistics, a scientific study of language, but then you apply it to criminal matters and matters with law. So a lot of what I've been doing is analyzing ransom notes, threats, doing threat assessments, profiling, things of that sort. Been fun.
So 20 years from now, when we see Delaney on CNN as the national expert, you go, I remember when she was. Good for you, Delaney. We're all proud of you. Hey, I want to start off very quick. I want to talk about what the Senate did and what SBA's response to the Senate did. By the way, Lance will be on in a while. And this is my take. Blue Corn and Wampley were the bad actors. SBA said so. They banned them from SBA lending. 6 other lenders were caught up in that. And we made a mistake, not a mistake, but we did a report which just was internal. It was never supposed to be released. It was released this morning. We pulled it. We're not, for those 6, reporting of they were named and they said they didn't do anything. That's not newsworthy, and we're not going to go there with any of those other 6. So we pulled that, and we did another Fraud Friday about a father-son combination on PPP fraud, which is interesting. I'm gonna let Delaney talk about that. Look, here's my opinion. This is not, just because these lenders are named, this is not Carriegi bank serve type fraud. If you remember that fraud, they went in with they cut the locks, they went in, they grabbed a box of and we were criticized for that. We got nasty emails. Well, they only took half a box, and of course, me being who I am, I said, well, what was in the half a box? And we all know what was in there. These are simply 6 lenders who did business with these people and were named. My editorial opinion is it was unfortunate SBA named them. I don't think they should have. And if something was going to happen with these 6, they would have had sanctions announced at the same time, Blue Corn and Wampley. But for them to say they're going to be investigating them for fraud, I said this before, all lenders who were active in PPP, they're all going to be investigated. So for them to single out these 6 is unfair, but that's what the Senate wanted, and they wanted to do that. So I just want to be clear on how I feel about this process. Just because they're named, are they no way associated with that fraud? Excuse me, are they nowhere accused of being fraudulent? In fact, if you talk to most of these lenders, they were the ones who blew the whistle on these 2 bad actors. We will continue to talk about, Delaney, what Wampley and Blue Acorn did. And they did some pretty nefarious things, and they dragged other lenders in, and I know all those other lenders got into litigation with them, and that's where a lot of this stuff came. So I want to be very clear on that. And with that, Lance, since Fountainhead is named in one of them, I didn't want Lance on for that. So Lance, we're going to change it. Welcome in. We're going to change the subject. Fair enough? And now the awkward pause. Yeah, and enough. I don't want Lance to say anything about that. So I'm the one who says it, and we take responsibility for our reporting. And it was what we released this morning was not news, in my opinion. So let's go on to the important news of the day, Joseph, and that's the quarterly call. And Lance, you could certainly comment about this. And Lance, we've been waiting. You promised, Lance Sexton, as an individual, promised the industry that we would have new SOPs the last week of October. Lance, I'm calling you out.
Bob, we are all anxiously awaiting the new release of the SOP 5010. we thought it would be at the end of the fiscal year, at the beginning of the new fiscal year, and then there was some items released for comment, and the comments were being accepted to the end of the year. So hopefully this quarterly connect call on January the 10th will actually be about, hey, it's ready and going to be released.
Well, you and I talked about that. And by the way, I think this is a good decision by SBA, because I'd hate to have them release something and then it's already out of date, because there are a number of things up for comment for January 10th, including in their streamlined franchising. Help me out, Lance.
Well, simplification
of criminal history. Go ahead, Lance. What else is in there?
Simplification of the affiliation rule,
right.
Simplification of what's needed to properly underwrite an SBA loan. So there are quite a number of things that are in there that are up for comment that may or may not end up in the SOP. And I think it's smart.
Well, they'll end up, yeah.
Yeah, it's smart that they held off to the end, because there could be some changes in that initial information.
And I appreciate SBA's been forthright and say, hey, we're going to hold it until then. And that's appropriate. It's an appropriate response, and I think it's prudent. So,
but we're anxious for it, Bob. Also anxious for the servicing and liquidation SOP that's supposed to be at some point down the road that hasn't been updated since 2015.
Well, there's a lot of hanging chads out there. One of them is we're still under the COVID requirements, but one notice expired, but technically it's still there, so we'll do away with that. And it'll make it a lot cleaner in terms of checklists of what we need to do. Also, they're addressing the 504 issue of getting affiliated financial information from siblings and offspring, which we've all not necessarily a big fan of. So that's where we're in that. Other interesting news, Delaney, what did the Senate do this Wednesday?
Yes, on Wednesday they held a hearing. The focus was, sorry, I'm blanking on my words. The focus was providing money and increasing access to capital for underserved communities, which focused on community advantage, microloans, and other SBA initiatives. And here we have a quote from Anne-Marie Murphy, who's the president of SBA lending at First Bank of the Lake. The SBA's loan programs rely on private sector lenders to deliver loans to America's small businesses. But it is first and foremost a public policy program, and that means that all lenders who participate must understand that Congress will continue to prioritize various underserved markets that need to be better reached. And as a small community lender, I am dedicated to improving how we serve our communities.
Very good, Delaney. And the reason why, and I know Lance wants to weigh in on this, the reason why this is so important, this is the reason why SBA is pushing lenders to diversify their portfolio for the smaller loans to make sure that loans are in the underserved market, because that is the original intent of the SBA lending program. And Anne-Marie says it, by the way, hi, Anne. Anne-Marie says it very, very well. It says participants must understand this is coming from Congress, and they want to make sure that you are doing your job. Lance, I said last week, I appreciate SBA pushing this and Congress pushing this, because the other side of the coin is they can say, you know what, we're going to limit these larger loans and not let you do those. Lance?
Well, it's just like what they did with PPP, guys. 2020 PPP, the first round, was more to known customers of financial institutions. It was larger PPP loans. And in 2021, when they launched the program, there was a push from the president and the administrator to reach underserved markets. So they opened PPP up to contractors, Schedule C filers, and so forth, to help get pandemic funding out to underserved markets. Well, they're wanting to absolutely do the same thing with 7A loans. And honestly, Bob, they've been doing this for our whole career. I mean, right. I can remember various programs. There used to be programs for minorities. Certainly, there's been the Veterans Advantage program over the year. There were programs for you know, there used to be a women business entrepreneur loan at one point. So SBA is a program that is a public policy program, and you know, when Congress and SBA dictates that we should be reaching underserved markets, we absolutely should be.
And this is bipartisan. This is on both sides of the aisle. Over a while, historically, the Republicans were reluctant to do SBA, but once it was explained to them that SBA actually makes the loan program makes money for the government, they all jumped on board. So it is bipartisan, and this is just a reminder to all of us, this is why we have SBA. And the pressure is coming from Congress, who holds the purse strings. And so in SBA, you come in and they say, hey, what are you doing for underserved markets? What's your strategy? What's your plan? This is where it's coming from. And it's one thing for SBA to, they're the conduit and they're the messenger. And you need to know who's behind that message. So very, very critical.
One thing I've always believed, Bob, is, you know, I've told people you need to have diversity in your portfolio. You need both large and small loans in your portfolio. But, you know, one thing they could do to help the participant lending community reach underserved markets is make smaller loans more attractive. That could be through a higher guarantee. It could from SBA. It could be from allowing even a higher interest rate than currently is allowed.
And that's one of the things we're waiting for on January 10th, because they're going to be addressing this issue. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens on that. But I agree with you, higher guarantees, and that's in there. And I know fee waivers, and they're talking about different things in that to make it more attractive for lenders. Now, the flip side of this is there's what I find interesting over the course of the years, Lance and Delaney, is they've said, okay, if the lenders aren't going to do it, we're going to find other participants to do it. Several years ago, there was a push to get a lot of credit unions in here because they were going to do it. And now the push is for other type of alternative lenders, i.e. fintech. And our friend John Riosty wrote about that and said, maybe that's a bridge too far. Lawmakers caution SBA on admitting fintech lenders to the 7A program. So, Lance, we'll see what happens on that. I know you have pretty strong feelings.
Well, I do believe, Bob, that providing loans to the underserved markets is very important. And I think one of the impediments to that for most participant lenders is a small loan. It's hard to get enough yield on a small loan. And so they don't go after the smaller loans as much as they'd like to. Because the yield is not there. And the other thing, you know, whether people believe it or not, smaller loans equal higher defaults.
Yeah, absolutely.
Riskier types of lending. And so with that, a higher guarantee percentage would make lenders more inclined to want to look at smaller loans because most lenders understand, you know, if the $50,000 and under loans, your default rate is going to be a little higher on those. So having a higher guarantee percentage would certainly help.
And SBA has funded the SBDCs. That's a great resource when someone says, hey, I want to start a restaurant, instead of sitting down with them and explaining why you're going to turn the loan down as a startup, you say, hey, go talk to these people and you know, have them work through on what it takes to be a restaurateur, business plans and programs, et cetera. Women's business centers, the expert centers, there are specialists to help these people, help these groups go ahead and get loans. So work with those, network with your local district. They're under, Lance, I assume the districts are under guidelines to increase this type of lending. So the local district officials are very interested in this as well.
Absolutely. And a third thought, and I'll be quiet, Bob, if they could develop some sort of I know. I was telling a story. I was in a room with a 4-star general, a 3-star general, and a former head of the Joint Chief of Staff. And, you know, everybody on the show knows I like to tell stories. I had nothing to add, Bob. I was just all ears to that meeting. But my final comment on underserved markets and smaller loans if they would develop a effective program where lenders could bundle and sell on the secondary market, that would help it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, yeah, you got me at the 4-star. What do they call this ceremony? A pinning ceremony?
It's a pinning ceremony. I actually had the pleasure of participating and getting to watch this, and I was just in awe, Bob. And then they invited me into their inner circle for just sitting around, enjoying a beverage and talking. And I would sit and hear a story, Bob. I'm like, I have nothing that I can bring to the table that's nearly as cool as this.
Delaney, you have years of experience. Do you believe that? Do you believe him?
It's a rare occurrence, but I do believe.
Very good. Delaney, tell us about what you're following up on Fraud Friday.
Yes, we have a set of family fraudsters. We have a father, Izzat, and then a son, Tariq, I believe. And these two got caught up in some PPP fraud. They were searching for over $1.7 million for 4 different businesses. Shish Kebab Catering, Green Apple Catering, and Aroma Packaging. They lied about payroll expenses, the number of employees, and once they obtained that money, they ended up using it incorrectly, including making $30,000 in payments to different family members. They each received many charges, and the father had a 4-year sentence, while the son had, I believe, over 7 years. At least as a result, though, the government was able to seize back $1.3 million in the fraudulent PPP funds and return it to the lender.
And I know this was local for us. This was in Glendale, California?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Any other fraud stories? I'm off script here. Is that it? What else you got?
I actually do have another fraud story. I apologize. I did not provide a slide for it, but I figured on the topic of family fraudsters, there was another, maybe not fun, but interesting story. There were 3 brothers who tried to obtain $7 million, and I believe they did obtain that money. And to get this, they created 70 fake businesses, all claiming to be farming for organic food. So now they're trying to keep up with that. They all use the money for inappropriate reasons, most of it being houses and cars. And I know you like to know cars. There was only one that I could find, but it was a Jeep Wrangler.
Oh, well, very good. Good for them. Finally, a decent. By the way, Delaney, you cut out. How many companies did they form?
70.
70. Yes. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Delaney. Lance, we just announced your loan servicing. Are you ready for 2023? Give me a real quick elevator pitch on this one.
Well, I think what we're going to try to do, Bob, is provide some things to consider in getting ready for 2023. We've got a new year hitting us, and just want to talk about some things that you can do in your institution to get ready for the now it's not a new SBA year, but it is a new calendar year for all of us. And just absolutely want to talk about several areas of servicing that are important. One I see right now, Bob, workout plans and liquidation decision. With the most recent Fed 50 basis point increase, we're now looking at most of our SBA loans having interest rates at close to 10%. When they started the year, somewhere around 5.5%, 6%. So they're going to be more stressed borrowers in your portfolio, and we want you to know how to take care of them.
Absolutely, and that's it's great timing, and it's a perfect time to do that. Lance, we'll look forward to that, and we're going to have that the Wednesday right after the first of the year. Delaney, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. We'll talk to you Monday. Thank you for joining us for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you for joining us today for today's episode. If you like today's content, hit that subscribe button to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon to get notified about our latest videos. Thank you again for joining us today and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Catch you next time.